Well, very good morning to all. Today we are going to discuss the remaining topics of fourth unit. That is about flip-flops, shift registers, introduction to microprocessors, and some different types of memory elements. Okay. We'll see that one by one. I will start with flip-flops. In the last class we have discussed about adders, subtractors, right? I have given some introduction about the difference between combinational and sequential circuit. Okay. We have different devices which will be categorized based on combinational and sequential, right? So that adder and subtractor is a combinational circuit. Why? Because the output of such device, it is totally depends on the input what you are going to apply, right? So but here you have a little bit change in case of shift registers, flip-flops. I am calling these circuits as sequential. Why? Because the output of such device will not only depends on the present input, it also needs past history of inputs. Okay, some past history of input is also required to decide the output. One thing is like if you apply the input, suddenly it may not provide you the output. Since it needs some past history, until and unless that particular input arrive, it will not produce any output. So such circuits we call it as sequential circuit. So flip-flop is one such circuit. Again, the flip-flops plays a very important role in a digital circuit design. Similar to your basic gates and universal gates, again this particular flip-flop also plays a very important role, especially to construct some couple of very useful circuits, shift registers, counters. Okay. To design those circuits, we have to use flip-flops. Then what do you mean by flip-flop? So flip-flop, it is basically a memory element. Okay. Flip-flop is basically a memory element which is capable of storing binary bits, 1 or 0. Flip-flop is a sequential circuit and it is a memory element which is capable of storing the binary information. You have a different types of flip-flops. Again, this particular flip-flop itself is acting as a very important element to construct a bigger circuits. This is one more set of sequential circuit design. In combinational you have seen that gates plays a very important role. Okay. Similarly, for sequential circuit design, the flip-flops plays very important role. How it stores the information? In digital circuits or in very next topic is about processors and all, where the memory device is very important. You are using the memory devices to store the information. So how that memories will be generated? It will be created using flip-flops. Certain memories will be constructed using flip-flops. That memories is also called, actually in the processor terminology, if you want to say that memory is registers. Not the analog component register, not that register. That which can oppose the flow of current. That register is different. This is REGI, that is SI. Okay. So this register is a memory device. In all processor related discussions, we will use registers. Okay, or cache memory. Okay, So certain kind of memory, a temporary storage memory, we call it as a register. We'll see it later. Okay. So the register basically it have a couple of flip-flops in it. Similarly counters. Okay. We'll see that advantage part later. So flip-flop is basically a sequential circuit which is capable of storing some binary information, and you have 4 different types of flip-flops. Namely, it is SR flip-flop, D flip-flop, JK flip-flop, T flip-flop. We'll see the truth table of each one of this. Again, you have for every flip-flop there is a truth table for this. So before that, I can just give you one small difference between latches and flip-flops. The latch is also perform the same thing. It can store the binary information, and flip-flops will be constructed using latch. Difference is only this much. Those latches are, we call it as a level triggered. Flip-flops are edge triggered. The way how you excite or the way how you trigger the component, that will give you this classification. One is a level triggered, one more is edge triggered. So I will not go in detail about level and edge triggered, okay, but flip-flop, you remember, it is a edge triggered, right? The particular device, when you apply the input, it will not give you the output. The moment when you apply the clock signal, that time it will react. Okay, only at particular interval of time, flip-flop will react. But in level triggered, for a long duration of time, the device is sensitive for your inputs. But flip-flops, it is only at a surge, a small interval, flip-flop will react. Again it will be idle. Got this? That will give you the classification of level triggered and edge triggered. Remember, flip-flop is edge triggered. Okay. So different types they are: SR flip-flop, JK flip-flop, D flip-flop, T flip-flop. The truth table of SR I have already written here. Internally you have a circuits, again couple of gates. Will not go in detail of that internal circuit. You just understand only the block level representation. Again in detail you study it in the 3rd semester. This is a block level representation. When you look at that diagram, you have 2 inputs, S and R, 2 outputs, Q and Q bar. You have one more input, that is a clock, triggering pulse. So S and R are the 2 inputs which you must apply, where you can get the response at Q and Q bar. Along with that, you must apply the clock signal. Without applying clock signal, flip-flop, simply I can say it is disabled only. Okay. If you apply the clock signal, then only it can start functioning. That's the meaning. This is a table of SR flip-flop. 2 inputs S and R. Qn is present state. Qn plus 1 is a next state. Okay, you have 2 states, one is a present state, one is a next state. What will mean by next state? Suppose the device is having certain outputs right now. If you apply the inputs and apply the clock signal, output will change. That state we call it as a next state. Before application of input and a clock, that's a present state. After application of input and a clock, it is next state. Okay, you just get those 2 differences. And S and R, as usual, they are the inputs. If you understand this truth table, okay, they are written in the same fashion. Okay, you can easily get it. Just understand it here. S and R are the 2 inputs. Qn is the present state of the circuit. Qn plus 1 is a next state. Okay, that we are going to get once we apply the inputs. The first state I will just define. Here I will apply both S and R input 0 and 0. Here two inputs I will apply 0 and 0. Okay. Presently the circuit output Qn is 0. I am talking with respect to Q. Q bar is always complement of Q. Okay, so I will refer only Q. Q bar is exactly opposite. So if Qn is 0, presently this Q is what? 0. If the conditions are like this and if you apply the clock signal, how the SR flip-flop will change? That I am going to explain now. You have S and R two inputs. Totally 4 combinations of inputs available. So for every combination I will tell you the behavior of SR flip-flop. If you know those 4 combinations, I can easily describe a SR flip-flop. For so and so input, what will be the output? That's what I took a truth table with 4 conditions. 0 and 0, both the inputs are 0. Presently the Qn is 0. Right? Qn is 0. Now, if I apply a clock signal, this, that clock is very important. That is a trigger pulse. If you apply that trigger, then only the device will react. It is something like for any device, if you are, until and unless you apply an electrical voltage or a signal, device will not function. Okay. Similarly, this flip-flop, clock is very important. Clock. Okay. Through this, I will apply one surge, one clock pulse. Once you apply the clock and keep my S and R 0, 0 and presently the output is 0, how the flip-flop react? Flip-flop, okay, will produce 0 only. It means present state is 0, the same 0 maintains even after applying inputs and clock. Okay. Okay. Next, when S and R are 0, take the same case. Think that presently the output is not 0, it is 1. I am just taking all the combinations, right? All possibilities. Before I took 0, so it maintains it 0 only after triggering. Now Q1 is 1. After applying the inputs and clock, the Qn plus 1 is 1 only. It means when the inputs S and R both are 0, 0, the output will be same as before. As before means we are calling present state and next state. So next state is same as a present state. Okay. The same conditions, whatever the device have, it maintains the same thing. So S and R along with the clock signal, that doesn't make any significant change in the output. Whatever the status, it maintains the same. So this state I am calling it as a no change state. Okay. No change. Because output is not going to change. It maintains the last value only. When S and R is 0, 0, that is very important. When two inputs of SR flip-flops are 0, 0, there is no significant change in the output. This is the first case. What about second? Second is when S is 0, R is 1. Here. S is 0, R is 1. When this particular combination of input, if you apply, how the response will be? That we will check. When S is 0, R is 1, again think that the present state is 0. After application of clock signal, how the output is changing? The output is 0. Output is 0. Okay. Again apply the same inputs. Think that presently the status of output is 1. After applying this particular combination of inputs along with the clock signal, it produces the output as 0 only. What conclusion you will make for this? When S is 0, R is 1, and if you apply the clock signal, irrespective of whatever may be the present states, output is straight away it is 0. Okay? Because present state is 0, that time also output is 0. Present state is 1, that time also it is 0. If S is 0, R is 1, and if you apply the clock signal, straight away output is 0. I just forget about the present state. It produces the very new results as 0 only. So always S0 R1 will give you output as 0, you remember. This is the second case of SR truth table. S0 R1, output is straight away 0. And this combination I can call it as a reset state. Reset. Because any device, if you push a reset button, the device will go to its initial state, that is 0. Reset is 0, that's it. Okay? This is the second state. So when S0 R0, no change, it maintains the past outputs. When S0 R1, output maintains 0 only, whatever may be the previous state. It's a reset state. What about third case? When S1 R0, if you apply the clock signal, and presently if the flip-flop is having 0, what will be the change? Output will turn into 1. I will check one more case. Again same kind of inputs, but think that presently the flip-flop is having output as 1. That time also it is producing 1. Whenever the input combination is S is 1, R is 0. S1, R0, this pattern you can check. S must be 1, R must be 0. If this is the case, whatever may be the flip-flop present output, it straight away maintains as 1. Got this? This particular thing I will call it as a set state. Once you apply S1, R0 and flip-flop, straight away output will be turning to logic 1. Logic 1. It is a set state. Previous case is reset. Here it is exactly reverse. But input pattern must be S must be 1, R must be 0. 1, 0 and 0, 1 not same. S must be 1, R must be 0. If this particular combination of input is fed along with the clock signal, your output will be turned into logic 1, whatever may be the previous thing. That doesn't make any dependency. Straight away output is 1. So this is a set state. Okay? Which is one more combination. I checked 3 combinations. When both the inputs are 0, 0, when it is 0, 1, when it is 1, 0, one more case is 1, 1. When both S and R are 1, 1. If it is 1, 1, present state is 0, next state is not defined. Fourth condition is when S and R both are 1, 1, and if you apply the clock signal, output cannot be defined properly. Because if you look at the inside circuit, you will realize it violates some basic rule. So we are not going for this particular condition. What I meant to say is, if you have a SR flip-flop, don't ever try to feed the inputs S and R 1, 1. Output may be anything, there is no logic for that. We cannot define. So this is the unwanted state in SR flip-flop. S and R both feed don't feed as 1 1 because it is not giving you a predictable result. I cannot say what exactly happens. So that's what this state is, undefined state. Undefined state. Got this? This is about the truth table of SR flip-flop. Just block level representation. Inside you have a gate level logic is there. We'll study it. Now understand only this much. A flip-flop is a sequential circuit. Its function is to store. Its function is to store the binary bits. You can call it as a memory element. Flip-flop is basically a memory element which will store a single bit of information. And you have a different types, SR, JK, T and D. SR truth table, you have seen that when you apply 0 0, output is no change. When S0 R1, output is reset. When S1 R0, output is set state. Set means it is 1, reset is 0. When S and R both are 1 1, output cannot be defined. It's an unwanted state. Right? This is the truth table. Any doubts here? Any doubts? Understand only this much. To construct a memory devices, we'll use the flip-flops. Again, this is a very basic cell. Using flip-flops, we can construct some bigger sequential circuits. Any doubts? So in detail, we have discussed the SR flip-flop. Similarly, we have some more flip-flops. Truth table is already written here. I will just go in briefly. I will just go with the truth table. This is the truth table of D flip-flop. D flip-flop, it looks like this. You have one input D, one input is clock, one output is Q, another output is Q bar. D is one more flip-flop. Again same thing, its function is to store the binary information. It is having only one input, that's a D. And clock, as usual, you must apply. There are two outputs, Q and Q bar. D, we are calling it as a transparent device, transparent flip-flop. Why? Because if you check the truth table, you will come to know that if D is 0, output is 0. If D is 1, output is 1. It means whatever may be the status of input D, the same will reflect at the output. So this is a transparent flip-flop. Okay, if it is transparent, what's the use? Okay, you may ask, but there are some cases where you need such kind of flip-flops. There are couple of advantages of D also, right? We'll see that application part later. So D flip-flop is a transparent flip-flop which is having only one input. If you apply D as 0, output is 0. If D is 1, output is 1. That is how the inside circuitry is built, gate level circuit. Again, inside circuitry we will study it in the next semester. Understand only the truth table. Okay. Next, T. Okay. T, we are calling it as, before T I will go with the JK flip-flop. JK flip-flop. Again JK 0 0 0 1 1 0 1 1. Okay. This is the truth table of JK. One more very important flip-flop. We'll be using this in many circuits. If you understand truth table right now, it's enough. Okay. And flip-flops are again very important devices. You have to remember ever. J, K, two inputs, Q key bar is as usual two outputs. Along with that there will be one clock signal. For all the flip-flops you must apply clock. That is the trigger. Otherwise device will not trigger. When J is 0, K is 0. When both the inputs are 0, 0, output is no change. You know what you mean by no change. It is basically based on the present state and next state. If presently, before applying input, if output is 0, after applying also it maintains same. That's the meaning. If presently output is 1, after applying input and trigger also, same thing maintains. That's a no change. No change. There is no change in the output. That's the main. That you will get it when you apply the input J0, K0. Next, what do you mean by J0, K1 state? It's a reset state. You can compare SR and JK. Keep it side by side. Some three states are same. If you replace J and K by SR, S0R1 reset, J0R1 K1. If J is 0, K is 1, it's a reset. In SR, S is 0, R is 1. Okay. Keep it side by side, it's almost same. Yes, J is 1, K is 0. 1 0 state set. Before applying input, whatever may be the state of flip-flop, but if you apply 1 0 along with the clock, output is turned into logic 1, whatever may be the previous. It maintains a logic 1. That's a set state. When J is 1, K is 1. The fourth state in SR flip-flop is actually, it's not defined, and I said it is not useful. But that state I am effectively using in JK. Okay. So I can now predict what will be the output in case of JK. That's what inside circuitry of SR and JK it is different. They are not exactly same. So the fourth state is 1 and 1. If J is 1, K is 1. Output I am calling it as a toggle. What do you mean by toggle? Toggle is, suppose before applying input, if the present output of the flip-flop is 0, after applying it will turn into 1. Complement of that. Before it was 0, after it is 1. Suppose before applying input, if it is 1, after applying it will turn into 0. Okay, 0 will turn into 1 and 1 will be turned into 0. So that's what I am calling it as a toggle. Toggle is nothing but what? Invert, complement, taking the opposite state. That's a toggling. Okay, LED blinking we call it as no on off on off on off like that. It's a toggle state. Got this? Actually in SR flip-flop this state is not specified. It's not useful there. But here somehow it is giving you the output. That's a toggle state. If J1 K1 straight away, the output always toggle. Suppose if you want to make a small project, I want to blink the LED continuously, on off on off on off on off like that. And instead of taking one LED, I will just connect some series of LEDs. All should suddenly on, all should suddenly off. How I can do that? Take the flip-flops, all J and K you apply 1 permanently, output will be continuously toggling. You should apply the clock signal. If you keep on applying the clock signal, all the lights will be on off on off on off like that. Okay. Using JK flip-flop, the toggling state I can make use in that way. You have many more applications of JK also. Got this? And T flip-flop truth table I have written. You only analyze it. If T is 0, so if last state is 0, it maintains 0. If last state is 1, it maintains 1. There is no change. if t is 0. If t is 1, if last state was 0, it becomes 1. If it was 1, it becomes 0. It's a toggling. So again, T flip-flop is having only one input, one clock signal, two outputs. D, one input, two outputs along with clock input. SR and JK, they have two inputs, two outputs, clock. These four flip-flops are will use in most of the cases. These are the basic flip-flops. Any doubts here? Understand only this much: flip-flop is a sequential circuit and it is a memory element which is capable of storing the binary information. And truth table of all the flip-flops like this. Any doubts? This is about flip-flops. In detail you will study the internal circuitry and its application part in the higher semesters. Any doubts? No doubts? Okay. So one application I said, a register. Register is a memory. Register is in digital. If I say a register, it is always a memory. In analog, it is different. Analog component which opposes the flow of current, that is different. Here register is a memory. That register is a combination of flip-flops actually. Similarly, I have a counters. Counter function is to count something. Electronically, if you want to count something, instead of manual counting, I will use the automatic counting machine. So that counting device basically will be constructed using a counters. Inside there must be some circuit whose function is to count, right? So that counters, if you want to design, the very basic element is the flip-flops. So counter, yeah, it is there everywhere. Counter and timing. So if you want to capture the timing, if you want to monitor the timing, you need a counters. In your wrist watches and all kind of a timing devices, inside there is the function of counting function. If the seconds is elapses 60, then the minutes will be increased by 1. If minutes will be elapsed 60, then hours will be increased by 1. So timing function is basically derived with the help of counting. Without counting, I cannot define. So that counter, if you want to design, flip-flop is the primary element. That's what I said. Flip-flop's application is in registers, memories and counters. Okay. This is all box level representation. Inside again there is some unique circuitry. Stage by stage, if you analyze it, you will get the same truth table. So in this case, or in this present time, if I explain that, you will be under confusion. That's what it will be kept in a higher semester. Okay. Next one is about memories, memory devices. Okay. Next part is about memories. You know the importance of this memory, because in every electronic gadget nowadays will use some amount of memories, especially if you take in a cell phone. So based on memory sometimes will decide which model I need to buy it. Even in computers the same thing. You have 500 GB, 1 TB, 2 TB. Again memory plays a very important role, where the large volume of data can be stored or some information can be stored. So again in the memory you have many more types. Not all the memories are the same. Sometimes we call it as RAM, ROM, okay, permanent memories, temporary memories, primary memories, secondary memories. Okay. So its basic function is same, which will hold the information. Then you have many more types. So this classification is basically based on what? Whether it is based on the volume of data or the way how you are storing the information. Okay. So based on many more things we have a classification. One thing is, you might have heard that regarding memories, volatile memory and non-volatile memory. Means what? Volatile means as long as power is there, the device will hold the data. Once the power is off or electrical supply will be off, all the data has gone. This is what volatile. Based on that you have a classification, that is a RAM and a ROM. RAM is volatile, ROM is non-volatile. Even after removal of the power, the memory can hold the data, right? But RAM is not like that. So RAM is a random access memory, which is a volatile memory. It can retain the data as long as the power is there. And again, this RAM, you have two types. One is a SRAM and one is DRAM. Here, SRAM is a static RAM, DRAM is a dynamic RAM, right? Static RAM, in the sense both S and D, both the memories are volatile only. But again there is some difference, static and dynamic. This classification is based on how you are going to put up the data or store the data, storage concept. After all, memory is also having certain electronic circuit. Using that only it is capable of storing the bits. So in SRAM we'll use some amount of flip-flops and transistors. Inside circuitry I am not going to deal with, but the components we are going to use or to build such memories are flip-flops, transistors. That's a SRAM. Whereas in a dynamic RAM we'll use capacitors and transistors. Because of such elements, what happens is, if you are using a capacitors, so by applying voltage and by removal of voltage we can refresh the data. Refresh in the sense, suppose if this is a memory and all memory is full, all memory is full. Suddenly what happens, I will delete some of the contents of the memory. Certain portion I will make it vacant in SRAM. So this memory look like this only. So again, if anything has to be stored, you have to store it in the next locations. This vacant place is, it retained continuously. We cannot use it again. SRAM. Okay, wherever such blank chunks are there, will not able to use it again. That is the disadvantage. But in case of DRAM it is not like that. If this much of space is full, I will delete some of the contents. Some file I will delete it. So this memory is what? vacant, I can reuse that memory again, because in the dynamic memory I can refresh. It means once you refresh it, this blank space will come here, this space will join with that, so that it look like this. That previous blank space, now it is available, I can reuse, right? So that's what dynamic memory, you have a refresh concept. There is no blank chunks which are inaccessible, but in SRAM there is so much of unusable memory chunks which are created by deleting certain data. So SRAM will use flip-flops and transistors, no refresh concept. Okay, there is not effective usage of memory, but in dynamic it is having a refresh kind of a provision. Okay, there is no inaccessible memory chunks, we can effectively use it. Transistor and capacitors are the basic building blocks for DRAM. Remember, both the memories are, okay, what we calling it as a RAM, random access memory. Again you have a volatile and non-volatile. This RAM is, it's a volatile only all the time. Okay, as long as the power is there, it is having a data, otherwise not. What about this ROM? It's a read-only memory. It means if you want to store the data permanently for a long duration, you can just choose a ROM. Again you have a different types. One is the PROM, programmable read-only memory. It means if you have any memory device, you can program it. By putting some program, okay, I can just keep on use it. Electronically you can program the device, right? Next, EPROM. It is electronically programmable read-only memory, electronically programmable. And you have one more, electrically erasable read-only memory. So as many number of times as you want, you can delete the contents and you can keep a new data, right? So basically read-only memory is once you put up the data, that's it. Okay, especially EPROMs. So if you buy any system, certain IC chips will be programmed by the manufacturer. Once you keep something inside, that's it. You cannot change or alter the data. If at all, if you want to do that, again you have to take that to the manufacturer. So, but in case of EEPROM, user can n number of times, he can erase the contents, you can keep a new kind of a data, or you can program it the way you want. Okay. So read-only memory is a permanent memory and it's a non-volatile memory. Even after removal of power, it can hold the data. Got this? These are some couple of classification. Primary memory and secondary memory is like a pen drive, disk. They're all secondary memory, which will store a bulk amount of data. So here the capacity is quite limited, but in secondary memory, a huge amount of capacity I can use. Got this? And SRAM and DRAM are the temporary storage, especially your cache memory. In your computer you are using RAM, no? They are all temporary storage that can speed up the things. And during working, if any of the primary or some temporary storage space is required, the device or system will use that. They are temporary. RAM and this. Again you have SRAM, static RAM, and DRAM is dynamic RAM. You know the difference. These are read-only memory, programmable. I can program it, right? Okay. Secondary, it's a disk storage, pen drive or hard disk. They are all secondary memory. Any doubts here? Some basics about memory. Any doubts? So the last part in the fourth unit is about microprocessors. Okay, microprocessor. I will go with the block diagram representation of the device. Okay, so the microprocessor, this particular block diagram representation is a basic representation, but higher order processor we have many more units. This I can refer it with respect to the 8085 microprocessor. You have plenty of microprocessors. What do you mean by microprocessor? What do you mean by microprocessor? So it is an electronic circuit or electronic device, processor, which will perform the computations. This is a programmable device. If you look at this block diagram, it is having many more units. You have different processors based on how much is the capacity of processing. Processor is what? It processes. If any of the task, if you feed to the device can just process it and give you the results. Any task, any kind of a computation. Your computer is the best example. So you will get many functions out of that system. Okay, you will throw the questions, it will just process it and give you the results. That's because of the processor inside. How fast it gives, again you have a different processor. Right now we have a Core i7, i9 processors, but actually the life of processor, it starts from 8085, or before that you have a 4004. Every device, there must be a processor, the heart of the device. If you want to give some examples, if you take a simple calculator, there is a processor inside. If you take a washing machine, there is a processor inside. If you take a printer, there is a processor inside. If you take a micro oven, there must be a processor. Because any device, if you take such complex device, it is performing so many things. so many things. So only the processor can do all such multitasking. That's what we should use processor. In computer you might have seen that you have a plenty of tasks, multimedia task, image processing. Okay, you can get some online video signals, audio signals, you can play the songs, you can rig up the circuit, you can simulate, whatnot, many things you can do with the system. That's all because inside there is a processor, microprocessor. Okay, so that's all about the importance of microprocessor. Every device must have it. Even your calculator, without processor, I cannot define such so many functions. Okay, since the processor is there inside, I can perform so many things with the help of calculator. Then, what will be there inside the processor? We have a higher capacity processor, so lower capacity. Forget about that. What are the inside units of such device? That I have written here. Okay. The main thing is the ALU, arithmetic logical unit, where the computation will be performed. Right. Next, registers is a memory. Always the processor is having certain small amount of capacity of memory will be there inside the processor. I am talking inside. If you take one small square format or a square type of a chip, you might have seen that there will be a flat IC on the motherboard. There will be so many. Okay, I hope you can easily recognize this processor. So inside the processor there will be some part of the storage space is there. That we call it as registers, temporary registers. Then you have a control unit which will produce the signal to coordinate and control the entire thing. Okay, there is a control unit. Then a data and instruction, they are very useful. If the processor has to perform something, you must feed certain raw material for that, that is data and instruction. Provide some data and tell it what the processor has to perform, then it will listen you. Okay, so feeding those data and instruction is very much essential. Okay, so normally those data and instruction, it will be kept in a separate storage space. Okay, not inside the processor, it will be keep it in the memory device. So that's what you need to bring those data as well as the instruction. That I will do it with the help of buses. Bus means, okay, just data can flow through that. It is a communication channel. Through some wires and all, the data can move from one device to another. That medium I am calling it as a bus. So I have two buses, data bus and address bus. Okay. To fetch or to retrieve the data from another device or a memory, we'll use one particular medium, that's a data bus. Similarly, to get the instructions, instruction will tell the processor what to do for the data. If I just given some data to the processor, what the processor has to do. Whether the data has to be multiplied, it has to be added, or it will be deleted, what it has to do. So it has to get meanwhile the instructions. So those instructions also will be kept in a memory. That itself we are calling it as a program. Program. Program is what? Certain task will be kept in a memory that is useful for the processor to guide what to do, to instruct. Right? So data can be fetched from the data bus, instructions can be fetched from the address bus. Okay, that is address bus. Next, as usual, flags are there. It means after the computation inside the processor, its results and status will be stored, okay, in registers, as well as the overview of the result, it will store it in flags. Overview. Okay, if it performs the addition of any numbers, and after the addition if any carry generates, so that carry status will be stored here. And if the result is having even number of ones, okay, that will be recorded here. Got this? So this is the main computation unit. Here we'll feed the data and instruction. Okay. These are the temporary storage within the processor. This is the control unit which can control and coordinate the entire thing. So processor is a programmable electronic chip which will perform the computations. And you have a different classification of processor. So 8085 is one basic processor. Got this? This is all about processor. These all the topics are with the 4th unit topics. If you have any doubts, okay, you can contact me at any time. Okay, thank you.